The phone shattered the silence like a gunshot in a confessional. Eric froze mid-stride across the creaky floorboards of his grandmother's empty farmhouse, the receiver trembling in his hand as a gravelly voice on the other end whispered, "She's left it all to you. Boy, the land, the house, everything. Not them. Never them." His heart slammed against his ribs, a wild thing trapped in the cage of his chest. Because in that split second, he saw it. The family he'd buried alongside her that morning, clawing their way back from the grave to claim what wasn't theirs. Rain hammered the tin roof like accusations, blurring the line between storm and sob as Eric sank to his knees, the cordless phone slipping from his grip. Grandma Evelyn's funeral had been a farce, a parade of aunts and uncles in starched black suits, their condolences as sharp as switchblades, slicing away at the boy they'd always whispered about behind closed doors. "That one's different," they'd murmur over potlucks and church suppers, their eyes sliding past him like he was a smudge on the family portrait. And now this call, from a lawyer he'd never met, unraveling the tidy lie they'd all lived. Evelyn's will, sealed tighter than her arthritis-knotted fingers, named him sole heir. The gay grandson. The disappointment. Eric's breath came in ragged bursts, the kind that taste like regret and relief all mixed up. He was 32, adrift in the wake of her passing, back in Willow Creek, Ohio, the same dust-choked town that had choked the life out of his dreams a decade ago. He'd fled to Cleveland after college, chasing anonymity in dive bars and dead-end graphic design gigs. But Evelyn's letters had always pulled him back, scribbled pleas wrapped in faded lavender envelopes. "Come home, sugar." The porch lights on. Now the house was his, all 200 acres of cornfields and secrets, and the family vultures were circling before her dirt was even settled. He stumbled to the kitchen window, pressing his forehead against the cool glass. Outside, the graveyard lights flickered like distant fireflies across the road, where they'd lowered her oak-boxed body into the earth just hours before. The service had been Methodist stiff, hymns droning like judgmental bees, and Uncle Harlan, Evelyn's eldest, with his bulldog jowls and Bible-thumping grip, had leaned in close during the reception, his breath sour with bourbon. "We'll fight this, Eric. Family comes first. Blood, not whatever this is." Whatever this was, the soft baritone of the man Eric loved, hidden away in Cleveland texts, or the rainbow pin he'd worn defiantly on his lapel that morning, a tiny flag in enemy territory. The lawyer's name was Harlan too, coincidence or curse? And his voice had cracked with something like apology when he'd hung up. "She made me promise. Said you were the only one who saw her, truly saw her." Evelyn, with her stories of bootleg jazz in 1940s speakeasies and a husband lost to Korea, had seen Eric too, the boy who'd come out at 16, stammering it over her chamomile tea, expecting thunder. Instead, she'd pulled him into a hug that smelled of talcum and resolve. "Love's love, darlin'. Don't let 'em tell you different." Now, that love was legacy, and it terrified him. Eric paced the dim hallway, floorboards groaning under his socks, memories flooding like the creek after a downpour. Upstairs, her bedroom door hung ajar, the quilt she'd pieced from his childhood shirts still rumpled on the bed. He'd found the letter there yesterday, tucked in her Bible, "To my heart's keeper, fight for what's yours." Fight. The word lodged in his throat like a fishbone. His family wasn't the forgiving type. They were the kind who quoted Leviticus at Thanksgiving and prayed away the sin over pecan pie. Cousin Lila, with her peroxide curls and pinched smile, had cornered him in the church basement, hissing, You think you can just waltz in and take it all? After what you've done to this family. What he'd done, loved men. Loved Nathaniel. Specifically, the sharp-jawed photographer from Cleveland who'd crashed into his life 2 years back at a gallery opening. All easy grins and calloused hands from lugging tripods. Nate, with his ink-sleeved arms and laugh like summer thunder, had made Eric believe in second chances. But Nate was 3 hours away now, oblivious to the bomb ticking in Willow Creek, and Eric hadn't called him yet. What if this inheritance dragged them both under? What if the town's small-minded pulse rejected them outright? Dawn crept in gray and grudging, painting the walls in bruise-purple shadows. Eric brewed coffee strong enough to strip varnish, the percolator hissing like an old grudge. He scrolled his phone, thumb hovering over Nate's contact. Miss you already. Shit went down. But the words dissolved. Instead, he texted Harlan the lawyer. Details? When do we meet? The reply buzzed back swift. My office, 9 a.m. Bring ID. And steel your spine, son. The drive into town was a gauntlet of goldenrod fields and rusted silos, the radio spitting static-laced country ballads about lost loves and hard rains. Willow Creek's main drag was a postcard from 1952. The diner with its chrome stools, the feed store where farmers swapped lies over seed catalogs, and Harlan's law office sandwiched between the barber and the Baptist Hall. Eric parked his beat-up Subaru under a sycamore shedding crimson leaves, his pulse a drumbeat in his ears. Inside, the air smelled of oiled leather and stale smoke, and there sat Harlan Sr., not his uncle, but the attorney, a wiry man in his 70s with wire-rim specs and a mustache like a broom bristle. Mr. Whitaker, the lawyer said, rising with a handshake that lingered a beat too long. Ice kind but shadowed. Sit. She's made quite the stir already. He slid a manila envelope across the desk, thick as a guilty conscience. Inside, the will, notarized and ironclad, Evelyn's looping script declaring Eric her sole beneficiary. Blood of my blood, keeper of my truths. The estate tallied neat, $1.2 million in land value. The house appraised at $300K. Heirlooms from her speakeasy days, jewelry, paintings, a jazz trumpet etched with initials not his grandfather's. Eric's fingers traced the paper, ink blurring under a sudden sting of tears. Why me? They were her kids. Harlan leaned back, tenting his fingers. Because you listened. She told me once, after your granddad passed, how you'd sit with her on that porch, trading stories till the fireflies came out. The others, they wanted the money, not the woman. And when you came out, he paused, choosing words like steps on thin ice. She said it broke her heart to see how they turned on you. This was her way of turning back. The door banged open then, a whirlwind of cologne and fury. Uncle Harlan, red-faced and flanked by Lila and Aunt Marjorie, their heels clicking like cocked hammers. This is bullshit, Uncle bellowed, slamming a fist on the desk. That woman's addled in her grave. Eric's no kin to this, he's unnatural. The room spun, hot and close, as Lila spat venom. We raised you better than to steal from your own blood. Marjorie clutched her pearls, whispering prayers under her breath. Eric stood, legs jelly, the will clutched like a shield. She chose me, he said, voice cracking but steady. Her choice. Not yours. Harlan the lawyer rose, all quiet thunder. Out. Or I'll call the sheriff. They retreated in a huff of threats. Lawsuits, disownment, hellfire, but the damage was sown. As Eric fled the office, the town square clock told noon. mocking him with its relentless tick. He needed air, needed Nate, needed something real amid the unraveling. Back at the farm, he collapsed on the porch swing, the chains creaking a lullaby. His phone lit up. Nate. Hey, city boy. How's the prodigal son holding up? Miss your face. Eric typed back, thumbs flying, come. Now. Everything's changed. Sent. And in that exhale, the hook sank deeper. The stranger's call had reeled him into a life he never asked for, but one Evelyn swore was his birthright. Love, land, legacy. All tangled in the roots of who he was, gay and unbroken, staring down a family storm that would test every fragile thread. Nathaniel's truck rumbled up the gravel drive like a promise kept too late, dust devils swirling in its wake as the sun dipped low, gilding the silos in fool's gold. Eric watched from the kitchen window, heart a fist in his throat, because seeing Nate here, in the heartland that had spat him out, felt like tempting fate with a loaded deck. 2 hours from Cleveland, but worlds away, Nate, with his city polish and shutterbug soul, stepping into Willow Creek's unforgiving glare. The door swung open before Nate could knock, and there they were, arms crashing together, mouths hungry for the anchor only the other could provide. Nate tasted like highway coffee and home, his stubble rasping against Eric's jaw as he murmured, "Talk to me, babe. Your text scared the hell out of me." Eric pulled back just enough to search those hazel eyes, flecked with gold like autumn leaves, and spilled it all, the call, the will, the family's venom uncoiling like a snake in the garden. Nate whistled low, sinking onto the sagging couch with Eric tucked against his side, the room's shadows lengthening like fingers reaching for secrets. Holy shit. A millionaire farmer? That's some rom-com twist. But his grin faded quick, thumb tracing Eric's knuckles in that way that said, "I'm here, but this is big." "And they came at you like that? In the lawyer's office? Like I was the devil incarnate," Eric said, voice muffled against Nate's shoulder. The flannel of his shirt smelled of darkroom chemicals and pine, a scent that had pulled Eric through too many lonely nights. They'd met at that gallery in the flats, Eric nursing a gin and tonic, sketching strangers on a napkin, Nate capturing the crowd's raw edges through his lens. One shared cigarette on the fire escape, a brush of fingers trading the lighter, and it ignited. 2 years of stolen weekends, whispered I love yous over takeout Thai, building something solid in the cracks of their chaotic lives. Now, Nate's hand stilled. "You okay? Really?" Eric nodded, but the lie sat heavy. Truth was, the inheritance felt like a noose disguised as a necklace, beautiful, but tightening with every family glare. Evelyn's house, once a sanctuary, now hummed with ghosts, her laughter echoing in the attic, the faint jazz from her old RCA Victor. But the land, vast and vulnerable, bordered by Uncle Harlan's spread, where he'd already posted no trespassing signs like barbs. They made love that night slow and deliberate, the kind that stitches wounds before they scar. Moonlight slanted through lace curtains, painting Nate's body in silver, lean muscles from hauling gear. The tattoo of a compass rose on his ribs pointing true north, always back to Eric. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of mothballs and memory, Nate propped on an elbow, voice soft. "What do you want? Eric? Sell it? Fight? Run?" Eric stared at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, blades whispering choose. Choose. Fight, I think. For her. For us. Because Nate had his own baggage. A conservative dad in Toledo who disowned him at 24, choosing wrong. A string of X's who'd bailed when the camera flashes dimmed. This could be their stake. A plot of earth to plant roots deep and defiant. Morning brought coffee on the porch, mugs steaming in the crisp air, as Nate scrolled Zillow on his phone. House needs work. Roofs leaking like a sieve, wirings older than sin. But the views? Killer for shoots. He was already envisioning. Wildflower fields for bridal sessions, barn conversions for art installs. Eric laughed, the sound rusty but real, and for a moment, the world narrowed to them, two against the tide, Evelyn's swing creaking approval. But Willow Creek doesn't suffer dreamers lightly. By noon, Lila's minivan crunched up the drive, disgorging her and Marjorie like a bad sitcom. Nate vanished tactfully to the barn, leaving Eric to face the Inquisition alone. "We came to talk sense," Lila said, perched on the glider like a queen on a throne, her acrylic nails tapping judgment. Marjorie hovered, clutching a Tupperware of reconciliation pie rhubarb, tart as their words. "Sign it over," Lila pressed, sliding papers across the wicker table. "We'll cut you a check fair share. But this is Harlan's birthright. He plowed those fields with Dad." Eric's grip tightened on his mug, steam curling like unspoken rage. "Grandma plowed them too. And she chose me." The air thickened, birdsong the only buffer. Marjorie's eyes, watery blue, softened a fraction. "We love you, Eric. But the town's talking. Gay heir takes the farm. It's a scandal. Let them talk," he shot back, sharper than intended. "I've heard worse from you all." The pie sat untouched, a brick between them, as Lila's mask cracked, hurt flickering before hardening to steel. "You're throwing away family for what? That drifter in the truck? He won't last a winter here." Nate emerged then, overalls dusted with hay from poking at the tractor, his smile easy but eyes hawk-sharp. "Morning, ladies." "Coffee?" The deflection worked. They left in a flurry of frost, tires spinning gravel like spite. But their words lingered, poison ivy under skin. That afternoon, Nate dragged Eric to the back 40, where cornstalks whispered secrets in the wind. They walked hand in hand, unashamed, Nate's camera slung over his shoulder, capturing the sprawl. Rusted windmill sentinel, creek bed choked with wild mint. "This place," Nate said, framing a shot of Eric against the horizon. "It's you. Stubborn, beautiful, full of stories." Click. The shutter snapped, freezing the moment. Eric's profile etched in gold, vulnerability raw as an open vein. But vulnerability invites wolves. Dusk brought Harlan's pickup, bass rumble announcing trouble. He lumbered out, shotgun propped casual on his shoulder. Not loaded, Eric prayed, but the implication hung heavy. "Boy," he growled, "I skipping Nate like roadkill. You think a piece of paper makes this right? That land's Whitaker blood." "It's Evelyn's blood," Eric countered, stepping forward, Nate a solid warmth at his back. "And mine." Harlan's laugh barked harsh, scanning Nate with disdain. "Brought your guard dog. Huh? Town knows what you are. Perverts don't farm." Nate tensed, but Eric's hand on his arm steadied them both. "Leave, uncle. Or the sheriff hears about the trespass." Harlan spat tobacco juice, a brown arc staining the dirt, and retreated with a parting shot. "We'll see you in court. Family first." Night fell heavy, stars pricking the velvet sky like accusations. Over whiskey, Evelyn's hidden stash, smooth as her jazz tales, Nate voiced the fear gnawing at edges. This fight is gonna gut you, Eric. And me? I'm no farmer. What if I drag you down? Eric set his glass down, cupping Nate's face, thumbs brushing the worry lines fate had etched too young. You're my up, Nate. Always. They fell asleep to rain's rhythm, bodies entwined, but dreams twisted. Evelyn's voice calling from the fields. Fight, sugar, morphing to Harlan's shotgun blast, shattering the porch light. Eric woke sweating, Nate's arm heavy across his chest, and wondered if inheritance was worth the war. Dawn painted the room rose, and with it, resolve hardened. They'd face it together, love as weapon, legacy as shield. But in Willow Creek, shields crack, and love, though fierce, bleeds easy. Court convened in the county seat, a squat brick courthouse in Milford, 30 miles east, a neutral ground where justice smelled of linoleum and desperation. Eric arrived early, Nate at his side in a button-down that strained against his shoulders, tie askew like a rebel flag. The hallway buzzed with locals, farmers and Carhartts, gossiping like crows over crumbs, their stares pinning Eric like specimens. That's him, a woman muttered to her companion, voice laced with that Midwestern mix of pity and poison. The one from the will. Inside the chamber, Judge Harlan, no relation, thank God, presided with a gavel like a metronome, her gray bun severe as her rulings. Uncle Harlan's side filled the benches, Lila preening in pearls, Marjorie dabbing eyes with a lace hanky, cousins clustered like a jury of their own. Their lawyer, a slick Columbus import named Travers, paced with shark's grace, painting Evelyn as senile, manipulated by her troubled grandson. The deceased was isolated, he intoned, voice oiled, vulnerant to undue influence from a family member estranged by. Lifestyle choices. Eric's gut twisted, the word lifestyle landing like a slap code for freak, wrapped in legalese. Harlan the good lawyer countered steady. Depositions from Evelyn's doctor, sharp as a tack till the end. Neighbors attesting her lucidity. The Will's video recording. Evelyn in her rocker. Voice frail but fire bright. Eric gets it all. He sees me. They see dollar signs. The tape played. Her eyes locking through the screen straight to Eric's. And he bit his lip bloody to stifle the sob. Nate squeezed his knee under the table, a lifeline in the storm. During recess, in the vending machine glow, he fed Eric a candy bar, chocolate smearing like war paint. You're doing this. For her. For us. The word swelled in Eric's chest, a balloon against ribs. Nate had rearranged his freelance schedule, canceled a wedding gig in Akron, to stand here, his presence a quiet roar against the whispers. Last night, in a roadside motel en route, they'd mapped the future on crumpled sheets. Nate's pop-up studio in the barn, Eric's designs going remote, weekends hiking the creek with rescue dogs. Dreams, fragile as dandelion seeds. But Travers struck back vicious, subpoenaing Eric's character witnesses, texts from Cleveland bars, a faded grinder profile screenshot Lila had dug up like grave dirt. Promiscuous behavior, the lawyer sneered, indicative of instability unfit for stewardship. The courtroom gasped, a collective inhale of scandal, and Eric felt exposed, flayed, his queerness weaponized, reduced to pixels and prejudice. Nate's hand found his again, knuckles white, but when Travers turned to him, and this associate, Mr. Reyes, a transient artist with no roots. Nate rose, voice steady thunder. Objection, he said, though no right to character assassination. Eric's the steadiest man I know. And love? That's not instability. That's the root. The judge banged her gavel, sustaining calm, but the damage festered. Outside, protesters gathered, church ladies with signs. God hates theft and traditional family now, fueled by Harlan's whispers. A tomato splattered the truck hood as they fled, red as betrayal, and Eric drove white-knuckled, Nate silent till they hit the highway. Those bastards, he finally growled. Using who we are against you. It's always been that way, Eric murmured, eyes on the blurring corn. Town motto, love thy neighbor, unless he's like us. Nate's laugh was bitter chocolate. Then we love louder. Back at the farm, tension simmered like summer storm. Harlan called daily, veiled threats masked as concern. Settle out of court, boy, or we air your laundry. Eric ignored them, burying in chores, mending fences with Nate. The hammers ring a defiant rhythm. Evenings, they cooked Evelyn's recipes, chicken and dumplings bubbling on the stove, stories spilling like wine. Nate shared his Toledo scars. Dad's ultimatum at the kitchen table, choose Jesus or that lifestyle, and the front door slamming behind him at 19. Ran to art school, lens as my confessor. Found you. Eric traced the compass tattoo, whispering, points to home, but cracks spiderwebbed. Nate's gigs dried up, clients balking at the gay farmer's boyfriend, whispers reaching Cleveland galleries. One night, over porch beers, he admitted it. I love you, Eric. But this is killing my work. What if we lose everything? The question hung, a guillotine blade, and Eric's reply caught jagged. Then we rebuild. Together, the betrayal brewed subtle, a slow poison. It started with Lila's olive branch, a lunch invite at the diner. Just us girls, Marjorie tagging along like chaperone. Eric went alone, Nate's warning in his ears. Snake oil. The pie was apple, a la mode, but the talk turned treacherous. We miss you, Lila cooed. Ice serpentine. Harlan's hurting. Sign, and we'll welcome you back. Nate too. Maybe if he behaves. The word ignited. We're not dogs, Eric snapped, tossing a 20 and storming out. But seeds of doubt took root. What if Nate resented the pull? What if love buckled under legacy's weight? Crescendo hit mid-October, leaves aflame as the trial recessed for motions. Nate's phone buzzed during a barn cleanup. Travers, the shark, offering a side deal, testify against Eric. Undue influence from you. We'll make it worth your while. 50 grand. Clean slate. Nate deleted the voicemail, hands shaking, but the worm burrowed. That night, over candlelit pasta, he confessed. Voice ash. They tried to buy me off. Like I'm the villain in their script. Eric's fork clattered. Betrayal's echo. You considered it? The words escaped. Unintended venom. And Nate recoiled. Eyes storm dark. For a heartbeat. God. Eric. I'm scared. This place chews up dreamers. Silence stretched, taut as wire, until Eric stood, chair scraping judgment. Then go. Before it chews us both. Nate didn't. He stayed, mending the rift with touches and tears, but the fracture lingered, a hairline in marble. Days blurred to harvest moon, court reconvening with Travers's ace. A forged letter, purportedly Evelyn's, recanting the will. Found in her attic, he lied, and the gallery murmured. Harlan the lawyer pounced, handwriting expert debunking it. But the mud stuck, smearing Eric's name. In the bathroom break, Nate cornered him, foreheads pressed against the cool tile. "We're winning this," he vowed, lips brushing Eric's temple. "Then what?" Eric whispered. Nate's answer was a kiss, fierce and fleeting. "Then we live." Unapologetic, but apology came unbidden. Driving home, Nate's truck swerved on black ice, slick as lies, plunging into the ditch with a crunch of metal and mercy. Eric arrived minutes later, called by instinct, sirens wailing as he clawed through wreckage. Nate, bloodied but breathing, grinned through the pain. "Told you." I point north. Ambulance lights painted the night hell red, and as medics loaded him, Eric clutched his hand, whispering, "Don't you dare leave." The accident, a sign, or sabotage's shadow? In Willow Creek, lines blurred, and trust, once cracked, trickled away like rain. The hospital in Milford was a sterile purgatory, beeps and bleach assaulting senses already frayed to threads. Eric paced the ER waiting room, coffee gone cold in his fist. The clocks tick, a torture device counting Nate's heartbeats from the oar. Concussion, fractured ribs, a gash needing stitches. The ER doc rattled it off like grocery list, but each word landed hammer heavy. "He'll pull through. Lucky the airbag deployed. Lucky." In Willow Creek, luck was a loaded word, whispered with suspicion. Was the ice natural, or had Harlan's truck idled too long on that curve? Engine heat melting the road to menace? Nate emerged groggy, morphine soft, hooked to IVs like puppet strings. Eric sank into the bedside chair, hand enveloping Nate's, the warmth a sacrament. "Idiot," he murmured, voice thick. "Scaring me like that." Nate's laugh wheezed, eyes crinkling despite the bruise blooming purple on his cheekbone. "Had to. One up your family drama." They talked in murmurs. "Court tomorrow. The forged letters stink. Love's stubborn grip." "Stay." Nate slurred, thumb stroking Eric's wrist. "Build with me." Eric nodded, tears salting the promise. But doubt's shadow loomed. How long till the weight crushed them? Discharge brought them home to a farm hushed under frost. Nate dosed on painkillers and propped on the couch with pillows scavenged from Evelyn's linen closet. Eric played nurse. Soups simmered from cans. Ice packs swapped like sentinels, while fielding calls from Harlan the lawyer. Travers is cornered. We move for dismissal. Victory tantalized. But so did vengeance. A tip from the feed store. Uncle Harlan bragging at poker night. Road's mine. Ice melts quick under tires. Circumstantial, but enough to ignite Eric's core. Nate healed slow, body knitting while mind wandered dark alleys. Late nights, fire crackling in the hearth. He'd stare into flames, voice low. "What if I bail? Head to Chicago. Chase gigs." "You deserve normal." Normal, a myth, peddled by ants over Jell-O salads. Eric knelt before him, hands on knees, eyes fierce. "Normal's overrated. You're my extraordinary." They made love gentle, exploratory. Nate's ribs taped, Eric's touches reverent, rediscovering edges in the quiet. Afterward, Nate traced Evelyn's quilt patterns, confessing, "That bribe tempted me because I'm terrified of failing you." "Here, you won't," Eric said, belief a bridge over chasms. But bridges burn. Court day 3 dawned brittle, November wind stripping leaves like dignity. The gallery swelled, reporters from the Plain Dealer, sniffing scandal for front-page fodder. Travers opened with bluster, waving the fake letter like a bloody shirt. But Harlan dismantled it thread by thread. Ink analysis. Witness perjuries pinned on Lila's cousin. Then the bomb. Dashcam footage from a neighbor's hunt club. Timestamped. Harlan's truck idling on the curve. Taillights glowing malevolent before peeling away. Tampering. The judge intoned. Voice ice. Bordering criminal. Chaos erupted. Uncle Harlan lunging across the bar. Bellowed curses. Lila shrieking denials. Marjorie fainting into deputy's arms. Travers folded like cheap suit. Motioning mistrial. But Judge Harlan denied. Awarding summary judgment. Estate to Eric. Sanctions on the clan legal fees. A $50,000 fine for frivolous pursuit. The gavel fell final. Echoes ringing victory. And Eric sagged against Nate. The room's roar fading to white noise. Outside, flashbulbs popped like gunfire. Reporters thrusting mics. How's it feel, Mr. Whitaker? Justice for Grandma? Eric, arm around Nate's waist for support. Faced them raw. It's not about winning. It's about truth. Love's truth. Family's what you choose. The headline next day screamed gay Heir triumphs. Whitaker will stands amid family betrayal. Photo capturing their clasped hands. Unyielding. Willow Creek reeled. Backlash brewing bitter. Eggs splattered the mailbox. Sodomites scrawled in spray paint on the barn. But allies emerged. Old Miss Pritchard from the library. Dropping off apple butter and whispers. Evelyn be proud. Nate, ribs mending. Set up his darkroom in the attic. Prince developing like hope. Eric in fields. Golden hour glow. The two of them on the swing. Silhouettes against sunset. Our story, he said, pinning one to the line. Not theirs, yet betrayal's blade twists deep. Came via email. Innocuous at first. Travers's paralegal. Forwarding settlement docs from Lila. Inside, not legalese, but photos, grainy shots of Nate. Pre-Eric, tangled with an ex in a Cleveland motel. Timestamped last year. Leverage, the note read. Sign over half, or these go viral. Your true love exposed as cheater. Eric's world tilted. Stomach acid rising. As he confronted Nate in the kitchen. Prince trembling in hand. You said it was over, Eric choked. Voice splinter. Nate's face drained to ghost white. Eyes wide with horror. It was a stupid slip. Before we defined us. I swear, Eric, you're it. But the lie cracked open old wounds. Nate's fear of failure manifesting as fleeting escapes. A pattern Eric had ignored in the haze of new love. I can't trust this, Eric whispered, backing away, the photos scattering like confetti at a funeral. Not now. Not with everything. Nate reached, desperate, but Eric shrugged him off, fleeing to the fields where corn stubble crunched underfoot like broken vows. He walked till lungs burned, sky bruising purple, Evelyn's voice haunting. Love's messy. Sugar. But worth the mend. Mend. Could they? Or was this the fracture too wide? Dusk found him at the creek. Stones skipping ripples of regret. Nate appeared, limping slightly, jacket zipped against chill. Don't run, he pleaded, voice raw. I fucked up scared, selfish. But I choose you. Every day. Eric turned, tears carving tracks. Prove it. Nate dropped to one knee, not proposal, but penance offering his phone. Contacts purged. A vow, transparency. Therapy. Whatever it takes. They talked till stars wheeled overhead. Confessions peeling layers. Nate's abandonment scars fueling the cheat, Eric's family rejection breeding hypervigilance. Dawn crept, pink promise, and in the half-light, they kissed, tentative, then torrid, sealing a pact. But trust rebuilds slow, bricks mortared with time, and as they walked back hand in clasped, Eric wondered, was forgiveness strength, or surrender? Winter whispered warnings, snow dusting the eaves like shrouds. The farm transformed under their hands. Nate's photos selling online, Cleveland buyers charmed by Heartland queer romance. Eric pitching designs to NYC firms, Evelyn's trumpet gleaming on the mantle as muse. Yet shadows lingered, Harlan's fine unpaid, glares from the diner booth. One night, blizzard howling. A knock rattled the door. Marjorie, alone, cheeks chapped red. "I was wrong," she said. Pie tin extended, pumpkin, spiced with sorrow. "Evelyn saw you true. Forgive an old fool." Eric hesitated, then pulled her in, the hug thawing something ancient. Not all mended, but a thread reknit. As she left, Nate wrapped arms around from behind, chin on shoulder. "See? Roots deepen, but roots tangle too." The true gut punch waited in spring thaw, when Travers resurfaced, not with photos, but proof. Harlan's sabotage confession, recorded in a jailhouse plea for leniency. Manslaughter charge pending, the road iced deliberately. Eric testified, voice steel, Nate at his side in the witness box. Verdict, guilty. As cuffs clicked, Harlan met Eric's eyes. No remorse, only resentment. "You ruined us." Ruined. Or redeemed. In the aftermath, the farm bloomed, wildflowers seeding fields. Nate's exhibit hearts unbroken touring galleries. But the betrayals echo. Nate's one-night ghost. A specter Eric banished with counseling sessions in Milford. Words weaving tighter bonds. Love, they learned, isn't flawless canvas. It's the repair, the gold in cracks. Kintsugi strong. Spring unfurled in Willow Creek like a hesitant truce. Dogwoods blushing pink against the relentless green of new corn. The air thick with promise and pollen. Eric stood on the porch. Coffee mug cradled in palms still calloused from fence mending. Watching Nate in the side yard. Shirtless despite the chill. Camera trained on a fox kit tumbling through the grass. The click of the shutter was music now. A counterpoint to the cardinal's trill. And for the first time in months, Eric breathed easy, the weight of winter's wars lifting like fog off the creek. The trial's dust settled messy. Harlan sentenced to probation and community service. Ironic, tilling fields for the county AG extension. His empire portioned out in quiet settlements. Lila slinking to Cincinnati with tail tucked. Marjorie a tentative Sunday visitor, bearing quilts and quiet apologies. "Blood don't always mean family," she'd say over tea. Her once iron gaze softened to pewter. Eric forgave in pieces, not wholes enough for potluck sand sermons, but boundaries barbed as the new split-rail fence Nate had helped install. Their life wove intricate now, threads of routine and revelation. Mornings. Nate's darkroom alchemy. Prints drying like prayers answered. Sold to queer zines and Midwest galleries hungry for authenticity. Rust Belt Romantics. His latest series dubbed them Eric Midlaugh in Hayloft Light. Nate's lens capturing the scar on his collarbone from a childhood fall. Vulnerability valorized. Afternoons. Eric at the drafting table in Evelyn's sunroom. Vector art blooming on screen, logos for LGBTQ plus nonprofits. Infused with farm motifs. Intertwined roots. Rainbowed silos. Evenings. Supper on the porch. Evelyn's recipes evolved, Vegan twists for Nate's lapsed Catholic guilt. Stories swapped like currency. Therapy anchored them. Weekly drives to Milford where Dr. Lena, with her no-nonsense bob and rainbow lanyard, unpacked the baggage. Nate confronted his cheat head-on. Fear made me run. But you're my stay. Eric unpacked the inheritance's curse. It felt like chains, till it felt like wings. Sessions ended with homework, date nights, no phones, and they honored it fierce. Picnic under the windmill. Nate's guitar strumming Woody Guthrie covers. Stargazing in the truck bed. Meteor shower painting wishes across sky. Yet humanity's hue is gray, not gold. Cracks resurface subtle. Nate's wanderlust itching when a Chicago curator called, offering a solo show. Big city, babe. We could escape. Eric's nod masked the pang. Abandonment's echo. Faint but familiar. Go, he said, voice steady. I'll hold the fort. Nate stayed, choosing the Kit Fox over spotlights. But the choice cost. A week of silence. Words rationed till make-up sex mended the rift. Bodies speaking what egos stuttered. Summer scorched in. Heat waves miraging the fields. And with it, the farm's first open house. Nate's vision. A Pride on the Prairie pop-up. Local queer artists hawking wares under tents. Drag story hour in the barn for wide-eyed tots. Evelyn's trumpet played by a visiting jazz trio. Willow Creek divided. Some boycotted. Crosses burned at the road's edge. Sheriff called. Charges filed. Others trickled in curious. Marjorie among them, clapping tentative to RuPaul anthems. A teen from the Baptist youth group lingered. Eyes on Eric's pin. Is it? Okay. Here. Eric knelt. Heart full. It's okay anywhere you make it. The event peaked at dusk. Bonfire crackling as guests roasted marshmallows. Stories circling like smoke. Coming out horrors. Small town survivals. Nate captured it all. Candid joy. Tear-glazed toasts, and later, in bed slick with sweat, he whispered to Eric, "This. It's the legacy." Eric agreed, tracing the compass rose, north to healing. Autumn returned, harvest gold, and with it, a letter from Harlan, penned in county lockup, words halting as confession. I was wrong, boy. Jealous of her love for you. Forgive? Eric burned it in the hearth. Ashes to wind, no reply, but no hate. Human, after all, flawed vessels, capable of grace. Winter's hush brought the question, posed over mulled cider by firelight. Nate on one knee, this time with ring simple gold band, engraved true north. Marry me, Eric. Here, where it hurts most. Make it ours. Tears blurred the flame dance, and yes tumbled out, laughter chasing. Wedding plans bloomed modest. Barn vows under fairy lights. Marjorie officiating ordained online. Her smile beatific. Cleveland friends trucking in for the hoedown. Spring again. 1 year post-call. And the farm thrummed alive. Vows exchanged amid wildflowers. Nate's lens forgotten as he kissed his husband. Crowd whooping. Evelyn's spirit hovered. Photo on the mantle. Eyes twinkling approval. No by grand tragedy, but human triumph. Love weathered, not withered. Betrayal's sting dulled to scar. Strength's tattoo. Years folded forward. Kids adopted. A boy with Nate's grin and Eric sketches. Gallery retrospectives in NYC. Farm as backdrop. Marjorie's stories to grandbabies. Your daddies fought for this. Willow Creek softened. Edges planed by time. Pride flags in diner windows. Harlan's grave flowers from Eric's hand. Quiet amends. In the end, legacy wasn't land or gold, but the light they kindled, fierce, flickering, forever. On the porch swing, gray threading temples, Eric leaned into Nate, sunset gilding them gold. Worth it, Nate murmured, hand over heart. Every damn fight, Eric replied, and the world, for once, agreed.